All right. What is a preterist? What is a preterist? Douglas Wilson is a preterist. He's going to explain to us a little bit about preterism here.
Are actually prophecies that were fulfilled in our past. So let's say the Apostle John writes the book of Revelation. Most evangelical Christians think that the events of Revelation are yet to be fulfilled in our future. That's called futurism. And a preterist is someone who says, no, I think that the book of Revelation was largely fulfilled in the first century. In John's future.
Okay, so preterism and futurism, those are the only two views that he presents, okay? Preterism and futurism, opposed to each other, but each accomplishing the same goal, namely the diverting of men's minds from perceiving the truths contained in God's prophetic word, especially with regard to the identity of the Antichrist. That will determine what is a preterist versus a futurist, is their respective identities of the Antichrist, how they identify the Antichrist. Of course, Doug Wilson mentions preterism and futurism, but he doesn't mention the only true view, which is historicism. This is the only proper way to understand Bible prophecy, not preterism, not futurism. Utilizing the day equals year principle here is imperative. So you heard Doug Wilson say, preterists interpret the book of Revelation and especially all the prophecies in Daniel, Paul, and Revelation concerning the Antichrist. This is all about how you identify the Antichrist as depicting events that took place in the distant past. The Latin praeter meaning past, either by the fall of the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD or even further back in the events surrounding the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in 70 AD. So that's the high partial preterists right there. All those events, nearly all of them in the book of Revelation, have to do with the temple destruction in 70 AD. So did some of the apostolic, post-apostolic fathers, here's Tertullian. I'm just going to open this up so you guys can see how I got what the reference is here. It is, if you just ccel.org, go to Tertullian's writings, open that up, go down to part 1, you got to open that up so the arrow faces down. And then you go all the way down to, oh no, where are we here? We're in part, no, we're on the resurrection of the flesh. Got to go down to that one. So we can close this one up. And we can close this one up. So part 1, part 2. We're in part 2 here of the resurrection of the flesh. There you go. All the way down to other passages quoted from St. Paul, which categorically assert the resurrection of the flesh at the final judgment. Okay, that's where I'm at. And that would be technically chapter 24. Okay, let's go to Tertullian. Because Doug Wilson and these high partial preterists want to say that the Antichrist all took place in the 1st century AD. Well, the Roman Empire, of course, goes all the way out to the 5th century AD. And what does Tertullian say here? He quotes, "For that day shall not come unless there indeed come a falling away, and the man of sin be revealed." That is to say, the Antichrist, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or religion, so that he sits in the temple of God, affirming that he is God. Okay. Notice this: for the mystery of iniquity is already at work. Only he who now hinders must hinder until he be taken out of the way. So there was something restraining the Antichrist from coming to power. And what does Tertullian say? What obstacle is there but the Roman state, the falling away of which, by being scattered into 10 kingdoms, Daniel chapter 7, think Daniel chapter 7, shall introduce Antichrist upon its own ruins. You see that? Tertullian was not a preterist. He did not view the rise of the Antichrist as taking place in the 1st century AD. Tertullian is writing in the early 3rd century AD, the early 200s AD, not in 70 AD or the 100s AD, or the in the 100s, but in the early 3rd century. Okay, he still viewed. Notice here's a prayer by Tertullian, right here. I'm going to just give you the part 1, open it up to his apology, and this is all the way down in chapter 32. So you just got to go to chapter 32. So that's where I'm at. Part 1, open that up, the Tertullian's apology. That is his defense. He's defending the faith. And he says this, there's also another greater necessity for our, that is Christians, offering prayers in behalf of the emperors, that is the Roman emperors. Nay, for the complete stability of the Roman Empire and for the Roman interests in general. For we know that a mighty shock impending over the whole earth, in fact, the very end of all things, threatening dreadful woes, is only retarded by the continued existence of the Roman Empire. Okay? The rise of the Antichrist will not come until this restrainer, the Roman Empire, be taken out of the way. We have no desire then to be overtaken by these dire events, and in praying that their coming may be delayed, we are lending our aid to Rome's duration. You see that? Tertullian was actually, in a sense, patriotic, a patriotic Roman citizen, saying we ought to pray for Rome's duration because we know that when Rome falls, the Antichrist will arise. Okay? And so Hippolytus. This is Hippolytus. Dogmatic treatise on Christ and Antichrist. Here's Hippolytus. Got to open up his works. Go down to part 2. Treatise on Christ and Antichrist. Right there. I'm going to go down here. Well, as it was your desire, my beloved brother Theophilus, to be thoroughly informed on those topics which I put summarily before you. You know what that means? That means systematic theology, right there. Systematic theology existed long before Thomas Aquinas or anybody else. Systematic theology was recognized by people like Hippolytus, okay, and Tertullian and Irenaeus, putting in summary form the various and sundry topics that are given in Scripture. That is systematic theology, also known as dogmatics. Dogmatics, systematic theology. Drawing largely from where? The Bishop of Rome's great fount of wisdom and knowledge. Nope. Drawing largely from the Holy Scriptures. There's sola scriptura right there. Themselves as from a holy fountain, in order that you may not only have the pleasure of hearing them on the testimony of men, but may also be able, by surveying them in the light of divine authority, to glorify God in all. Soli Deo Gloria, right there. Sola Scriptura, the light of divine authority. From Hippolytus, again, early 3rd century, early 200s AD. The Roman Empire is still going at this time. I'm just going to scroll down quite a bit here because he's going to compare Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7. Daniel chapter 2, we have the great metal man, the vision of Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? You saw Nebuchadnezzar, a great image standing before your face. Head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze or brass, legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Now, if we set Daniel's own visions also side by side with this, we shall have one exposition to give of the two together. That is Daniel chapter 7. Daniel 2 and Daniel chapter 7 have to be read side by side with one another. So let's go what rough beasts here in the Antichrist. Daniel chapter 7, futurism says Antichrist is a future Mr. Diabolical. Preterism, no, Antichrist was a single solitary Mr. Diabolical, someone like Caesar Nero. Both of these are false. False views of Bible prophecy. Let's go through Daniel chapter 7. The four beasts that rise up out of the sea. These the four beasts parallel the four metal man elements of Daniel chapter 2. So that is what Hippolytus is going to do in the early 3rd century year of Christ, or Anno Domini, A.D. Lion with eagle's wings symbolizes the Babylonian Empire in Daniel's day. The head of gold, Daniel chapter 2. These are the dates. Bear raised up on one side, 3 ribs in its teeth, the Medo-Persian Empire. followed by the Grecian Empire, followed by the Roman Empire, then the breakup of the Roman Empire, notice, in 476 AD. The Preterists want to say, oh no, Revelation, all that stuff, Antichrist, all happened right here in the 1st century AD. Wrong. Antichrist did not arise until after the Roman Empire fell, which is why Tertullian said, what obstacle is there but the Roman state, which precludes or prohibits the man of sin, son of perdition, the Antichrist, from coming to power? Again, this is Tertullian. Amazing. Here's back to Hippolytus now. Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel chapter 7 together. I saw and behold 4 winds of heaven. 4 great beasts come up out of the sea. The first was like a lioness with the wings of an eagle. Beheld the wings plucked up, etc. These are the 4 beasts. The lioness came up from the sea. And by that he meant the kingdom of the Babylonians in the world, which also was the head of gold in Daniel chapter 2. Notice, this is Hippolytus, early 3rd century, you guys. After the lioness, he sees a second bear like a bear that denoted the Persians or the Medo-Persian Empire. After the Babylonians, the Persians held the sovereign power, which were also represented in the image by the silver after the gold. Then there was the beast, the leopard beast, which meant the Greeks. For after the Persians, Alexander of Macedon obtained the sovereign power in subverting Darius, the Medo-Persian king, as also is shown by the brass on the image. Okay, and of course Alexander, when dying, partitioned out his kingdom into 4 divisions. What are those 4 divisions? I thought they were they're Seleucids and Ptolemies for sure, and then I think Lysimachus and Cassander. Okay, needless to say, the 2 took over the 4, and the Seleucids and Ptolemies would hold sway until the Romans would arise. A 4th beast, and who are these but the Romans? The kingdom which is now established. After this, what remains, beloved, but the toes of the feet and image, and one part of iron and part of clay mixed together? Okay, and after this, and then notice I consider the beast, and there were 10 horns behind it, among which shall arise another horn and offshoot, and shall pluck up the roots 3 that were before it. Under this was signified none other than the Antichrist. Okay, and he says, who was also himself to raise the kingdom of the Jews, apparently. That's what Hippolytus thought. But notice the succession. He says the Roman Empire will fall, and then the little horn or the Antichrist will arise. Not in the 1st century AD. Hippolytus is writing in the early 3rd. See, after a little space, the stone will come from heaven. Ooh, did he think the stone in Daniel chapter 2, which smites the metal man image, is actually the second advent? I think he did. These things then are in the future from his day, the 3rd century. 10 horns, image. You see, so you can't, the Preterists, that's not going to fly. 1st century AD, Bible prophecy looks out way past the Roman Empire. Okay? Historicism, that's why Jonathan Edwards says, right here, time when the reign of Antichrist began, the 1260 days or years did not commence before the year of Christ 479, that is, before the fall of the Roman Empire. This is Jonathan Edwards. Works of Jonathan Edwards, Volume 1. All the way down here, History of the Work of Redemption. All the way down here, Period 3 to Part 4, to the Reformation. To the Rise of Antichrist, go to Part 3 here. Let's check that out. Yeah. Yeah, look at that. The woman, the Church of Christ. Absolutely. After the destruction of the heathen Roman Empire, Satan infested the church with heresies. Oh my goodness. Until the Antichrist rose. The 1260 years did not begin before the year of Christ 479. The rise of Antichrist was gradual. Especially the Bishop of Rome assumed more and more authority to himself. This is Jonathan Edwards, not a preterist. Anyway, that's all I got today. Tertullian, Hippolytus, not preterists at all. Not preterists. These guys are, look at Kenneth L. Gentry, a preterist, abandoning the Reformation. Abandoning it. Jeff Durbin, all of them, abandoning the Reformation on these issues. Okay? Preterism, false. Tertullian praying for the continuance of the Roman state or Roman Empire because it is the Roman Empire which is retarding the coming of the Antichrist. See? Hippolytus. Good stuff. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Preterism, false. Absolutely false. Talk to you soon. Soli Deo Gloria.